Okay, so you're going to have to forgive me because in the first video in section 1.1 and 1.2, I kind of jumped the gun and started talking about the way that I think of addition and subtraction of real numbers, and turns out that 1.3 gets into that, so I get off topic sometimes and I move ahead. I apologize. But all right, 1.3 is addition of real numbers, and like I said in 1.1 and 1.2, the way I like to think about it, and the way that I'd like for you to think about it from this point forward, is a number line. Okay, so something that I do a lot of times with students is ask them to close their eyes and visualize something as I read it to them. So if I said to close your eyes and listen to the following sentence, and then you tell me what comes to mind. So I'd say things like, a man walks down the street with his dog, stops at a coffee shop. So immediately when I say that and your eyes are closed and you're thinking about it, you're visualizing the man. You know what he looks like, you know what the street looks like, you know if it's daytime, nighttime, you know what his dog looks like, you know what kind of coffee shop he goes into. All these things start popping in your head. But if I said to you, for example, close your eyes and visualize 3 plus negative 4, when I ask kids to open their eyes again, they tell me that it was blank. Okay, they didn't see anything, they just saw numbers. And it's hard to visualize what to do if you're just seeing numbers, or if perhaps you're seeing nothing at all. So what you need to be visualizing is that number line. So when I say visualize 3 plus negative 4, I want you to see this. I want you to see this number line, and I want you to see 0, and I want you to see positive 3. So I know that I'm starting with positive 3, and then adding to that negative 4. So from that point of positive 3, I'm going 4 units to the left since I'm adding a negative. So I end up at the point negative 1. Okay, so that's what I want you to see as you're doing these problems. And I hope that sort of is going to help make a little bit more sense of what an addition subtraction problem truly is. We're just moving around on that number line. So we start at 0 and then we move to a point, and then we're adding or subtracting, meaning simply that we're going to the left or the right based on what that problem is telling us. So if we move on, they talk about showing that 5 plus 7 is 12, which follows pretty clearly from what we just talked about, but again with the number line. I'm starting with 5, I'm adding 7 to it, and I end at the point 12. So that's why that is. As you move on, something that I kind of find interesting, it's actually in 1.4 with subtraction of real numbers, is that the way that they want you in this book to do your subtraction. And basically it's this rule at the very beginning of section 1.4. It says that to subtract one real number from another, you simply add its opposite. Okay? And this is where we start to fall down, because we don't think of subtraction as adding an opposite. And that's all it is. So you might hear sometimes some people say that there is no such thing as subtraction, there is no such thing as division. That subtraction is simply adding an opposite, division is simply multiplying by the reciprocal. So if we think about it that way, somehow these long, complicated addition subtraction problems can become a lot more simple. So what they do is, as you can see in this example right here, they want you to begin by changing all the subtractions to additions and then add left to right. So for whatever reason, we're a lot more comfortable adding than we are subtracting, right? We put negatives in there, people freeze up, they don't like it, it's confusing. So if we can stay with addition, these problems should become a lot easier. So if we start with 7 plus negative 3 minus 5, okay? People get confused about this right here, this minus 5. Well, it's minus 5, it's not negative 5. That's the same thing, and that's what you're going to see in this next step, which is 7 plus negative 3. And then instead of leaving it as minus 5, they're going to change it to positive negative 5. So plus negative 5. So now that number line is a lot more easy to visualize. We're going to go to +7. We're going to go to +7 on the number line. And then we're going to add to +7, -3. So I'm starting at -7. I'm moving 3 units to the left, which gives me 4. And then the next is I'm going to add to that -5. So from there, I'm going again to the left 5 units. Excuse me for not drawing that to scale. So I end up with -1. So if you change it around, and I'm hoping, as you do these problems, you might have to be doing this on paper. I'm hoping that eventually we can do this in our head, see that number line, know which way we're moving, and figure it out in our head. The fewer times we have to turn to our calculator for confirmation, the better off we're going to be, especially with these simple problems. Let's see. Another thing they're bringing up here, and I'm not sure that they explicitly discussed it yet, but that is the order of operations. So as they're doing these problems, you need to remember your order of operations. So once again, old school, right? We have the old, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Okay, so we have parentheses, we have exponents, we have multiplication, we have division, addition, subtraction, and we're moving from left to right. Now the problem with this is multiplication and division are interchangeable, right? As I said before, there really is no division, it's just multiplying by a reciprocal. And there really is no subtraction, it's just adding the opposite. So instead of thinking of PEMDAS written like this, we need to think of it as, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Okay, so as we come to parentheses, that's going to be first. Exponents will be next, and then in order of left to right, multiplication or division, addition or subtraction. Okay, we can't separate multiplication and division because they're the same thing. We can't separate addition and subtraction because they're the same thing. And the problems in the book for 1.3 and 1.4 basically just addition, subtraction problems, no big issue. And I'm going to stop there because the next section has a lot of properties in it that we'll need to spend a little bit more time on.